we received the gift of another whole year. So I'm glad that everyone's watching. You made it to 2020. There's a thought that I wanted to share with everyone, and it was a little bit too long to write, so I decided to make a video about it. And it has to do with a natural occurring phenomena, and I find it fascinating, though the effects are devastating. And so it's a tsunami, and a lot of us who are in a landlocked state don't hear about it. People who are out on the coast are more familiar with it, but the world knows when one of these happens, especially when they're of like a higher magnitude. So really quick rundown for those of you who don't know. Under the oceans, when the tectonic plates move and they crash into each other, or one moves under the other, there's like a gigantic, enormous amount of energy discharged, and it can cause enormous, monstrous waves. And so these waves, when they hit shore, especially if it's a coastal region, they will absolutely take everything in their way down, and they will tear everything, anyone. They just have so much power. They come in with so much force. It's not even so much about the height, even though some are like 100 feet tall, but it really has to do with the amount of force that they come with, and they tear absolutely everything down. So I don't know how you ended your 2019 or how you started your 2020, but what I do know is that hardship is inevitable. So as you go through this 2020, there are going to be some days when you'll encounter your own tsunamis, when you're going to feel torn down by whatever the situation or whatever encounter happens to encounter you. And so the question is, what are you going to do when the tsunami does hit you? What are you going to do this year when the hardship does come? You can't run from these things. You can't hide from them. They're massive. There's nothing you can avoid. You can't avoid hardship. It's part of life. And so the question is, what are you going to do when it does hit? And my only advice to you is get on high ground right here, right now, as fast as you possibly can. And I believe that we're spiritual beings. So when I say get on high ground, I don't mean it literally, but I mean it spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally. Get yourself on high ground. There's a question posed that I found very interesting, and it's by a psalmist. So he says, Lord, who may dwell in your sacred tent? Who may live on your holy mountain? And it's asking, who can be on high ground? Well, it's people who go into God's presence. And if you are thinking, like, this girl's crazy, what is she talking about? Well, like I said, I believe we're spiritual beings, and as long as your core, your inside, your spirit is connected with its creator and it's having and developing a relationship with him, then I don't think any kind of tsunami, however massive it is, can shake you, can bring you down. Because when you're in his presence, you will be in a high mountain. You will be on high ground. And so as long as your spirit's okay, the rest will follow. Your emotional self, your mental self, your physical self. And so I guess my encouragement right now just is to get on high ground and do whatever it takes to find the Lord, to get on his holy mountain, to enter in his tent, so that none of the tsunamis that come this year can tear you down. And if you're wondering, well, Monica, like, how can I do that? How can I get into this high ground, get on this high ground? Well, I recommend Psalm 15. It has a pretty good description of what it looks like to get into this tent, into this high ground. And I hope it's a helpful encouragement for the rest of your year.